Hey everybody, welcome back to my channel. I hope you guys are all doing great today. It is a very warm and humid day today. Feels very jungly like today. But anyways, I wanted today to talk all about gladiolas. So they're these beautiful flowers that grow on these really long stalks, and they're just such showstoppers. This is actually my first, well, technically second, but my first year starting them from the very beginning. I did get some, like from a plant swap, but they were already grown. But anyways, so I guess it's my first full year growing glads, let's just say that. And sometimes you call them glads for short. But I just wanted to show you some of the gladiolas I have blooming and how you can be successful with them if you decide to grow them in your garden, or if you're just curious to learn more about them. So first of all, gladiolas grow from something called a corm. So I actually have some leftover corms so I can show you what they look like, so when you're buying them or you're ordering them, you know what to expect. So this is a gladiolus corm. You can see they don't really look like much. They kind of just look like rocks, kind of. But yeah, and these are kind of small, so you'll probably find them in bigger sizes. And if you do find them in bigger sizes, that's great. But this was the ones I got. But you can see they did perfectly fine. But yeah, so this is what they look like. They're just kind of, yeah, they don't really look like much. And these are what you will find, and these are what you will plant when you in the spring or whenever you plant your gladiolas. And yeah, so I really don't find them as full-grown plants. So if you want to grow gladiolas, chances are you're gonna pretty much most likely only find them in bulb form, but they're super easy, and I'll talk about that, but they're super easy to grow from bulbs, so it really isn't trouble. And you see, sometimes they're called bulbs. Again, they're technically corms, but it doesn't really matter. So that was a little bit about like the anatomy of it, or like what it grows from. And now I wanted to talk a little bit about their care. So, oh look, you see there's a bee. Oh, he's cute. So let's talk about how you can care for these. So first of all, gladiolas really prefer a full sun location. This is actually really important because they grow on these really long spikes, and if they're not getting enough sun, they're gonna flop. These are kind of floppy because we just had some rain recently, so I think it kind of just knocked them down a little bit. I don't know if they'll correct themselves, but we'll see. But it is important to position them in a full sun location. If you do have part shade, if you have to settle for part shade, that you can do that, but I would recommend staking them so they don't fall over. So that is light. As for soil, they really do want good soil, and if they're in containers, make sure you use a good quality potting mix. Like these ones are just in this large pot. They need to have a good quality, well-draining potting mix. I say this a lot, but this is very important because they grow from corms, which are similar to bulbs. They really need good drainage. These will not tolerate wet feet. If they are sitting in water, their corms will rot. So please, please do not put them in an area where the soil does not drain well. And if you're planting them in containers like I am, make sure they have a drainage hole, or multiple is probably better actually. But make sure they have at least one large drainage hole, and the potting mix is well drained, but make sure they are kept moist. So make sure that you are checking the soil regularly to see if they need watered, because they do appreciate having some moisture, like all plants, especially when they have to support these big, beautiful flower stalks. Like, look at this. I feel like it has kind of like a peachy color to this one. I really like that. So yeah, make sure they are kept moist, but again, make sure they are well drained. what's next? As for feeding these guys, now when I planted these, I actually mixed in a good bit of bone meal in the soil, and I might come around after all of these are finished blooming, and I might come around and give them like another dosing of bone meal so they can build up their corms for next year. So, and I will talk later about overwintering later on in this video, but so I would recommend giving them like bone meal or some kind of bulb fertilizer. Probably at planting would probably be a good idea, and you can probably feed them 2 or 3 times if you're using slow release. If you're using liquid feed, just follow the instructions and they should do well. So that's food. What am I missing? Staking. So these, oftentimes you will hear that gladiolas require staking, and normally that is the case. However, what I found with mine, because they were planted close together, except for these few, I really haven't had much of an issue with them like flopping over or anything. But if they're going to be in a really windy location and or they're not getting as much sun as maybe they would ideally prefer, I would like insert a stake at planting time, and so that or before planting or just after, so that you don't pierce the corm while it's growing. So you can just put it on like a stake, or if you have like all of that, if you have them in like this pot, and if they were like really just like flopping all over the place, you can corral them, like put like you can probably even try putting like a peony ring if you have like an old peony ring. I do, and I was considering it, but it didn't seem like they needed it, so I didn't really bother. So if your glads start flopping, you will probably have to stake them. Now, as for what to do after they're done blooming. So you can see these are all full of beautiful flowers and they look absolutely gorgeous. But I did purposefully leave some so that I could show you some spent ones, so I could show you what they look like when they're finished and what you can do when they're done. So you can see this is what a spent stalk looks like. This is completely, these 2 stalks right here are completely bloomed out, and you can even see these. I don't know if you can see that. See those green things? These are seed pods, and we don't want them to send their energy into their into their seeds, sorry. We want them rather to send all that energy from their foliage, which I think is pretty ornamental in and of itself. But you want to make sure to cut the stalk right above the leaves. So let me just get my pruners and I can show you how it's done. It's very simple, and don't be afraid. They will be much better for it. So you just kind of want to go down. So you just want to go down right above the leaves and just snip it off like that. It's that simple. You can throw that in the compost or whatever, and you want to make sure like all bulbs that you leave, all bulbs and corms and all that you leave all this healthy green leaves to grow until they are hit with a first frost. Whenever your first frost is, after the foliage yellows and dies after a frost, then we talk about overwintering. Now, generally speaking, and according to the package I got these on, these are hardy only to a zone 8. So that means you have one of 2 options. If you live in zones colder than that, you can A, treat them as annuals and just plant new ones. Like I said, they're pretty easy to find. Well, they're pretty easy to grow from corm. So, and they seem to be pretty easy to find in stores in springtime. So if you're not, so if you don't really want to go through the trouble of storing them, that's perfectly okay, and they should be fine. And if you live in a warmer climate, you can leave them in the ground. If they're in containers, because this is in a large container, this will probably, I'm definitely going to be lifting these out. And if you live, I would say maybe in less than a 9, maybe. If they're in containers in a zone 9, you might be able to get away with them leaving them in their pots over the winter. If anything less than that, because when they're grown in pots, they freeze easier. So if you have a freeze in like a rare freeze or something in a warmer climate, that might kill them. So I would consider either lifting them out, or you can just move the pot to a cool spot where they can overwinter in peace. So, and as for me, because I live in a zone 6B, I will have to lift these out, which I think I would like to make a video of that when it's time. Obviously, that's still a little whiles away. They're still blooming with their gorgeous blooms. I love these peachy ones. So I will talk about that at a later date. But just so you're aware, it is important to lift them if you're anywhere north of an 8. However, I was reading that depending on how deep they are planted and if they are mulched really well, and if they're in the ground, they might be able to make it through as cold as maybe a zone 6 or even maybe the southern zones of 5. That is, of course, very risky. So if you have a variety that you really like and you don't want to risk it, definitely dig them up before it gets too cold. I would say before it gets probably too much below 28, I would lift them. If you're expecting a freeze, if you haven't had a frost yet and it's gonna get below 28, like your first freeze is a hard freeze, I would probably lift them out before that happens, because that you might risk them freezing, especially again if they're in containers. So that's overwintering, and I think that is just about it. All I wanted to really talk about gladiolas and just show you some of the glads I have. I have some more on the way, but these are, I also have one that looks like this and it's just in the landscape. But yeah, it looks basically just like this. It's super pretty, but I think you guys get the point. And yeah, I just wanted to share with you. Oh, look at that. I don't know if you saw that butterfly. It was super pretty. I might have scared it off by accident. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video on gladiolas and how to care for them. And I hope you guys give them a try. I am really loving these. I wasn't sure what I would think of them originally, but I absolutely love them. They are beautiful flowers, and actually one more thing, they are great for cutting. So if you want to cut them and bring them in the house for a bouquet, they make great cut flowers, so I've heard. I haven't done it personally because I kind of just like to leave most of my flowers in the garden. So, but anyways, so that's a little something extra. If you're into that. And I hope you guys enjoyed this video. And if you did, if you guys could please leave me a like, comment, and subscribe. I would really appreciate it. And I will see you guys in another video very soon. Thanks for watching.